All right, church, welcome to week 3 of Thy Kingdom Come. It's been a great start as we're going together through the next 10 weeks to see and hear what God's up to as we do this thing together called Biblical Community, where we have other brothers and sisters who are asking questions. Some are very far down the road, mature in their faith, and others of us, we're brand new. And so we're trying to make sense of this God, Jesus, this kingdom thing. What does that look like? And so we do that together as a church. When we gather on Sunday mornings, we do that in smaller groups. We do that in medium-sized groups and different activities and things that we do throughout the week. But today, specifically, you are with friends called a small group. Small groups are a big deal to us. They help us make a big church smaller. They get you in biblical community. They provide opportunities for accountability, to walk with you as you try and figure some things out in life and marriage and finances and all the things that took place this week that we've had to go through. And so when we're talking about small groups, the reality is there are some of you who are not leading yet, but you need to think about it. We need you leading in the next season that we're doing. And so some of you, it's time for you to go ahead and step up and say, hey, listen, would somebody mentor me? Would somebody walk with me in this next season? I believe this is what God has. And those of you who are leading, as you continue to look around the room tonight even, like who is it that needs to be leading next? We want to continue like the book of Timothy when Paul writes, to pass on to the next generation. And so we're constantly looking to raise up the next group of leaders to be able to go and be sent out. And so maybe that's you this evening. Maybe you're like, man, this is week 3 and I don't know. There's some interesting people in this group. Awesome. Love it. You're probably one of those interesting people too. It's a lot of fun as we get together and worship through prayer, through the studying of the word, and it's good that you're here and with this group tonight. So we are going to continue tonight. We're talking about this kingdom. So when we're looking in Matthew chapter 6 today. So if you got a Bible, go ahead and grab it. Matthew chapter 6, we're going to look at verses 32 and 33. As you're getting there, let's go back a tiny bit and let's talk about this kingdom. When Jesus begins to introduce this, when he talks about this kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. So think of it this way, things as they ought to be. So go all the way back to Genesis when we see how everything was designed and perfect. And then in Genesis chapter 3, we see sin enter the world and everything gets fractured. And so we still, even like if we look at like theology, like a theology of a broken world, when sin entered in, it fractured our relationship with God, our relationship with others, in relationship with all of creation. Bible talks about the whole creation groans like and aches. And so, man, we feel that, don't we? Like there's been things this week that have been difficult that you've had to walk through, or your friends have had to walk through, or your family have had to walk through. And we believe that God is restoring all things, and he is asking us to join him in this reconciliation of all things here and now. So when we talk about this kingdom, we're talking about this idea that this is happening. It's not yet, but it's here. And so we begin to live and orient our ways differently and in the ways of Jesus. And so it changes how we interact with others at school, at work, those who are our neighbors, our literal neighbors, and those that we run into, whether it's at Publix or Walgreens or wherever we find ourselves on a regular basis, that those people matter to God, and so they've got to matter to us too. But let's look at Matthew chapter 6, the two verses that we're going to look at. So it's seated in the middle of this chunk that talks about do not worry. Boy, that's a hard one, isn't it? All right, so that's where we're going. Let's look at verse 32. For the pagans run after all of these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added to you as well. So seated in the middle of this passage of scripture, Jesus is talking about not worrying about all these different things. He's talking about not worrying about clothes and in finances, and all of the things that we know come to mind when we start talking about, man, what are you worried about? What are you concerned about? What's happening? And so Jesus says in the middle of that, don't worry about those things. But man, that's hard, isn't it? It's hard not to worry. It's hard to, and I think one of the ways that we do that is we start to try and control it. At least that's my default. Like, I can fix that situation. I can manipulate it to where I can solve that problem. I can handle that. But then what happens when you can't? Right? What happens when it's that phone call or that thing, or it's like, I cannot do anything else. And so we get to this place where I don't know what to do. I'm anxious. I'm worried. I'm fearful. This last week, I was in the Dominican Republic with one of our missions partners, Go Ministries, and I got to hang out with a pastor whose name is Silas. So Pastor Silas, he's got 6 children. They live in a community that's really impoverished. Probably the poorest of the poor in that community reside in that particular area. And so he started a church there. And when you walk into his church building, it's this funky pink color on the outside, and you go through this metal door and you come in, and it's got, these kind of ceiling tiles that are kind of falling through. You can actually see the light, and there's a metal corrugated roof on the top, and it's musty, it's not nice, it's pretty dark. And so what actually is happening is they're doing school in there. So there's sheets, like literal sheets that are hung throughout the schoolroom that divide into classes. And when I've been there before, class was in session and you could hear a pin drop. It's crazy. So inside of this community, they care for those and provide education. They have a church service together. Pastor Silas has been struggling with some health things, and so we went to take some food over and to hang out, spend a little time trying to encourage him. And one of the guys even went and got his children were all there, and we got him some little chocolate milks. And so the kids are all excited, and they're sitting there, they're drinking their chocolate milks, and one of the older siblings comes in that hadn't been in the room, comes in, and one of the younger ones runs up and offers him some. And he's like, no, it's okay, you take it. And I was like, man, I'm afraid like some of our kids would start fighting over it, right? Like, no, it's mine, I'm not sharing, kind of a thing. But they immediately, like, I got something, I need to give it away. Like, I want to make sure that you have something too. And I just got the beautiful picture of like God's people. Like, if we lived in that way, if we postured ourselves to a place where we said, I want to make sure that you have what you need because God has provided everything for me. He's given me love, joy, peace, hope, grace, patience, like all of these things. He said, these are added to you. You see, when we talk about normal kings and kingdoms, you talk about someone who is going to posture themselves to be an authority on top, to win, to have it all. Then I can take care of others. But in this backwards way of this king and kingdom, the people of God are actually the ones physically taking care of people. Now, Johnny talked a little while ago about how, the hospitals were started by churches, schools, education provided by churches. People are able to eat. I mean, think about what we do here in this community, even through Metro, right? Like, we as a church value these things. Why? Why is it a big deal that people would be without food? And so we want to be like, I want to help with that. I want to jump in. It's because of Jesus. It's the way that he lived. I mean, we could take this and turn this into a thing where God just gives you a whole bunch of things if you are faithful to him. And I don't know that I see that, because Jesus still struggled, right? He was crucified. He was beaten. He was mocked. He was constantly fought against by even the religious leaders of the day. Yet he still followed his Father always. So what is it that you're worried about? What are you stressing over? Is it your spouse? Is it you and your spouse within your marriage? Coworkers? Siblings? finances. You don't know actually how this is going to work this week. Stuff at job. Like, man, every little area of our life is filled with so much tension, and it's because it's been broken, and we have a King who's about making all things new. So this King Jesus in his kingdom invites you into a new way of living, a new way of seeing the world and people around you. So as we talk today in our small groups, may you find yourself in a position to give God some of those things that are worrying you, stressing you out, causing you to lose sleep. And may you see him do something new and brilliant in your life.